This is where you realize number one, you're either a winner or a loser. Look, I 50x my income when I changed my life. I'm doing better than everyone else I know. No, I'm not even joking.
Hi guys. Oh my god, the lighting in here is so terrible. I am late because I was trying to figure out what the hell's going on. My office is a disaster right now, as you can tell by the mess behind me. I'm picking my friend up from the airport later, so naturally I got the most obnoxious piece of Bristol board I could find so I can make a really embarrassing sign. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Bubba's on the floor today for whatever reason, so love that for him. Hi, everybody. Deanna, Harrison, Monica, Lori, Aaron is here. Love to see it. I see a few of you have your sparkling waters. I have my tried and true President's Choice caffeine-free, sugar-free Diet Coke. I love it. It's very warm here still. Guys, I wasn't built for this weather. Cheers, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at a channel favorite, if you will. Just catching up on the comments. I thought you were about to green screen a pyramid before you. Honestly, I have been thinking about investing in a permanent green screen, because I do feel like sometimes, as you can tell by the state of the bed behind me, it would be nice to just turn on the green screen so you guys can't see that my life is in literal chaos. Phoenix says, I am ready for riches. You know what? That's the attitude we need. That's the energy we're looking for tonight. Tonight, we're going to listen to a podcast that is going to explain to us why all investments are good investments. And if you make a bad investment, it's just your mindset. You just need to reframe it. So I'm excited for this. This was sent to me, as most of the content has been lately, through the reaction submission form, which, if you're not familiar, it is linked in the description of every single one of my videos and live streams. So if you have content that you potentially want me to react to, feel free to submit it there. Exactly. Monica says, imagine the goofy, funny stuff you could put on the green screen. And I could make myself a floating head, and I could put myself on top of all these gurus. It would be great. So definitely think that I should look into that. Why go to college when you could listen to a podcast? You know what? That's a great point, because if you guys didn't actually already know,
a podcast is the greatest education you can get.
A podcast is the greatest education you can get. So keep that in mind as we listen today. There was something else I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah. If you are a channel member, this is just your reminder that Thursday, same time, same place, we will be doing a members only live stream. I've never done one of these before, but this is some juicy, juicy tea. So I want to keep it exclusive to the channel members. And I'm looking forward to that. Very, very exciting. Someone made a podcast about me, guys. Oh my God. Which actually, sorry, my brain is never fully functioning at this hour. So that podcast episode that we're going to be listening to is actually from a year ago. And it was in response to a live stream that I did a year ago, where basically this particular coach found out I did a live stream about them. And they wanted to reiterate the fact that they really didn't care that I made a live stream about them, so much so that they recorded a whole podcast. So we're going to listen to it. Now, funny enough, someone sent me, again, to the scam reaction forum. I was going through there today. Someone sent me a YouTube video link to a podcast from literally 1 month ago, where two women who I reacted to probably almost 2 years ago were still talking about me on their podcast now in 2025 about a podcast or about a live stream episode I did back in 2023. crazy to me that I live rent free in these people's heads. Okay. That being said, I bring that up because none of the content that I make on this channel, if you are new here, is about any of these people. I don't know any of these people. I have no feelings either way towards any of these people. I don't know them personally. I'm just here to point out why I believe the things they are saying are problematic. So if you're watching this video and you're the person in it, this isn't about you. This is about your behavior, okay? So this isn't hate. I don't hate you, as these women on this podcast allegedly claimed. I don't like what you're doing, and I'm going to talk about why I don't like it. Okay. Glad we cleared that up. Thank you so much, Amy. Amy just gifted 5 memberships, which is so generous. Thank you so much for that. And now 5 of you can come hang out with us on Thursday. Thank you so much for that. I will just give you all this one key reminder.
Either get there or die trying, but damn sure don't be average.
Don't be average, because average is for losers.
I want all of you to let that one especially deeply sink in.
Amy says Bubba needs to make blankets to his liking, so it's not a mess. It's Bubba's comfort blankets. It's actually unfolded laundry. But thank you. I appreciate that. Erin says, putting it in my planner now. Excellent. I think it'll be fun. I've listened to about half of the episode, but nonetheless, it'll be a good time. So excited for Thursday. My weekly reminder that Danielle has been making videos for years, because where has the time gone? Honestly, this is how I feel too. I mentioned this. If you haven't watched, I uploaded a new video. It went public this morning. And in that video, I make a note of the handful of channel members that have been members for over 2 years, which is insane. Some of you have been channel members for 28 months. What? That is so crazy to me. Thank you all so much. Whether you're a channel member or not, and you just show up and you watch my content, you watch the live streams, the replays, you comment, engage my regular recorded content. I really, truly do appreciate each and every one of you. I mentioned this in the video, but I think a lot of people assume that this is my job, and it's not. I make a little bit of money from YouTube, but my full-time gig is not related to YouTube. And so this is just a fun hobby. I love hanging out with you guys. I love hanging out with the live chat, especially. We always have lots of fun, lots of laughs there. And so I really do just want to say thank you to every single one of you that has supported my content during some period of the last 3 years, because I wouldn't make it if people weren't engaging with it, because I think a lot of the conversations that come up, particularly in the comment sections, the live chats, Reddit, etc., as a result of making this content, have been really, really important to a lot of people. And I just am so grateful to be able to serve as sort of that intermediary between the crazy shit that's happening and the conversations that it's sort of started. Came because we got scammed elsewhere, staying for the plot. And that is really the vibe here, is it not? I'm looking for a certain sound. Where is it? Ah!
Now you are one of us.
One of us. One of us.
We left one cult to create our own. That is the truth. Yes, thank you, Monica. Monica says, don't forget to switch from top chat to live chat so you don't miss any of the comments. Thank you for that reminder. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into today's content. Baby content. What am I doing? Okay, I think that's, and I'll turn the live chat onto the screen. And we got Bubba. We'll put Bubba over her face because he's so much cuter. Look at that guy. Let me move the webcam. Ooh. Hi, buddy. Up close and personal. I also remembered to give Bubba his own water today, so I don't have to sacrifice my own. Okay, so as you can see here, we are going to be listening to an episode of the Make Money as a Life Coach podcast, which, are we making money as life coaches, or are we making money coaching people on how to become life coaches? That's the real question that never seems to get answered for me. But as you can see by the title of this particular episode, it is called Investing Shame, Blame, and Regret. And I'll read the description and then we'll just jump right into the actual podcast. It says, do you find yourself stuck in shame, regret, or blame when it comes to your business investments? These emotions can hold you back from the growth and success you're capable of achieving. In this episode, I'm diving into how these feelings impact your ability to move forward and why it's crucial to confront them in order to build the business you want. I'll walk you through how to change your relationship with investments. You'll learn how to stop letting shame and regret control your decisions, and how to start viewing every investment, no matter the outcome, as an opportunity to learn and grow. We'll explore why entrepreneurship requires patience and resilience, and how focusing on empowerment will help you make better decisions and attract the success you desire. If you want to start making serious money as a coach, you need to check out my programs. Oh my God, no thanks. I'm going to pass on that one. This comment here says, the ironic part is that these coaches need to develop the shame they impose on others to buy their programs and instead question their own motives/behaviors. But if I did that, then I'd have to stop making so much money. And obviously, I want to be rich. So get out of here with this attitude. Hoping you gave Bubba that fancy Evian sparkling water. Have you guys seen the videos of there's videos on TikTok, I probably like Instagram, YouTube, wherever, where people will give like multiple bowls of water, and one is like regular water and one is sparkling water, and it's so funny to watch the dogs drink like the spicy water. Anyway. Yes, exactly. Space Pastry says, I'm sure this episode will be full of trauma-informed wisdom. Absolutely. Yeah, I haven't listened to this episode. I just read the title in the description and was like, I think we're about to get gaslit for the next 28 minutes and 6 seconds, if I had to guess correctly. If any of you are watching and this is like your first sort of introduction to the coaching industry, I guess I'll just give you a little bit of information on why I think this episode is going to be important to the conversation. And that's mostly because a lot of times in the coaching industry specifically, this might be prevalent in other industries as well, but I obviously have most of my knowledge and experience related to coaching specifically. The coaching industry itself is notorious for encouraging people to invest in themselves, basically suggesting that if you want to have a successful business, the only way you're going to be successful and the only way that you're going to get clients to want to spend money on you is if you yourself sort of live that truth and you invest in yourself, aka buy your own coaching programs, pay for your own mentor to prove to your clients that you're worth investing in as their mentor. Because why would I buy coaching from someone who isn't they themselves getting coached? And so I guess you guys can drop your own guesses in the live chat, but my assumption here is that this entire episode is going to be just essentially shaming people to continue to invest in coaching. Even if your last coaching investment maybe wasn't that great, you just need to, buckle down and keep investing because your success is just beyond that next coaching investment. And I know that that's a sentiment that I genuinely believed was true when I first got into coaching, that I needed to have a mentor. And the reason why my first mentor didn't really work out was just because it wasn't a good fit. And I should just invest in somebody else. And that's going to be my ticket. It's like this carrot that they dangle in front of you and it just keeps moving. And you just keep spending more money trying to reach out for this thing that doesn't actually necessarily exist. Yeah, they call it being a product of the product. Exactly. So I'm going to assume that's what we'll talk about. If you guys have other guesses about what's going to come up in this episode, feel free to drop them in the chat. If you're watching the replay, you can comment them down below. And we'll let our channel favorite go ahead and enlighten us.
Entrepreneur Series course that we just finished up. And it was one of the most powerful calls that we had. I actually talked about this over our final 2 calls. And I wanted
Now you are one of us.
to share some of the things I taught the students
Sorry.
and some of the coaching that I gave the students.
Okay, I guess I'll just have to leave it open like this. Thank you so much for the super chat. Harrison just donated $2 and said, your road to riches lie beyond your next super chat. Ain't that the truth? Because this.
You can buy status by just spending money to be around these people and then just being a cool person.
You can actually buy status by sending super chats to be around the live chat and being a cool person. Oh no.
That I wanted to really just pass on to everyone, even if you didn't join the course. I think everyone needs to hear this message. And I delivered it very differently in the ROI training, the energy, the way I was able to build up and lay out the foundation was really beautiful. And it was a very loving, compassionate message. And this one, I want it to be a little more empowered and a little stronger. Also for the students that were in that course to have like another take at this. So this is what we're going to dive into today. So here's one of the things that I shared with my students that I think you need to know. Shame, when it comes to anything, but we're going to have this conversation around investing. Shame keeps us from wisdom. We trade wisdom for shame. We don't realize we're doing that, but that is what happens. When we allow ourselves to feel shame, then we aren't open to the wisdom that we could learn and the value that we could extract from the thing that's creating the shame.
Okay, this is interesting already. We're 2 minutes and 3 seconds in. She's saying, if we experience shame, we don't have the opportunity to acquire new wisdom or learn things from the thing we feel shameful about. So let's assume that this is true. Let's assume that I've made a coaching investment, and this actually is true to my experience, and I'm sure some of you in the chat experienced this as well. When I made that first coaching investment, which was $4,500. If you're new here, I invested in a mindset business coach that ended up just being a complete sham waste of money. I have a whole video from Coachmas last year that explains and details my whole experience. Now, when I made that investment and after it happened and after I kind of came to terms with the fact that like it was kind of a scam, I felt a lot of shame around having made that decision, having spent that money, having gotten duped, having not gotten what I paid for. And through that experience, I was able to learn how to practice better discernment when looking to get help for your business, how to really decipher whether or not people have legitimate credentials and experience and the things that they want to help you with. I would say that I learned how to develop a much stronger radar when it comes to like sniffing out people's bullshit. In my opinion, two things can exist at the same time. I can have the experience of feeling shame around falling for someone's nonsense offer, while at the same time learning lessons that I can carry forward. Now, what she, presumably, this is just my opinion, what I'm going to assume she's suggesting based on the statement she made, where if you're experiencing shame, it prevents you from acquiring that wisdom. She's trying to twist this into the idea that if you feel shame about an investment you made where you didn't get what you paid for, you need to, gaslight yourself into the like handful of things that maybe you did learn, which is something I did when I first made that investment and I knew I didn't get what I paid for. Rather than accept the fact that I got duped, I would like convince myself, well, she taught me how to turn on Facebook ads, and she taught me how to feel confident, and she taught me how to make a webinar. And it's like, those are all things I could have learned on my own. And I don't really now accredit any of that to her. But at the time, I just wanted to grasp at straws to convince myself that it wasn't a complete waste of money. And that's what I feel like this particular individual is doing right now. They want you to do that, to like make stuff up and convince yourself that everything's fine so that you're more likely to then buy the next thing. So this one wasn't great, but I learned XYZ. So maybe the next purchase will be like the golden ticket. That's kind of the impression I'm getting.
And blame keeps us from responsibility and empowerment. And one of the things I always say when it comes to responsibility is the definition that I love to think about is the ability to respond to any situation or the ability to respond in any situation. So it's not, it's my fault. It's, if I take responsibility, then I have the ability to respond in any situation with what I'm going to do, how I'm going to react, how I'm going to move forward, the value I'm going to extract from something, the empowerment I'm going to choose to step up into. And blame keeps us from that. It keeps us disempowered and not responsible. So we also miss the wisdom from blame. And regret really keeps us stuck in the past, wishing to change it, but without the energy to actually make the change because regret feels so heavy that we don't have any energy to even do anything about it. We just spin in our head thinking about wishing we could change the past and why do we do that and shoulding ourselves and shaming ourselves on top of the regret. And really it has us very past focused and in our emotional world, like our emotions get stuck in that past experience that we created regret with, instead of getting the wisdom by taking the responsibility and the empowerment and then gaining energy to be able to actually utilize the value that you learn from every situation that goes unexpected to make a change, including every investment that you make. So having investment shame blocks your wisdom from learning anything from that investment. The blame keeps you from being responsible and empowered and learning for you how to be a better investor and how to respond to any situation as an investor.
Oh my God. The personal responsibility argument drives me up the wall. Harrison says that's a terrible definition for responsibility. That's closer to capability. If we're being accurate, what a terrible take. Something that I've seen perpetuated in the coaching industry by, I don't know, just like randomly on the internet, but also like people who come across my content and then they just come to the conclusion that I'm just some broke, jealous hater that wasn't successful. So I had to make a whole YouTube channel dragging everyone down with me. Something that comes up in those conversations a lot is the concept of personal responsibility, and that we're all adults. And if we make bad investments, we need to learn how to take responsibility for the fact that that was our decision that we made as adults and move on, essentially. And what I really, in particular, hate about this concept of personal responsibility, particularly when it comes to investing in coaching products, programs, courses, etc., is that shifting this blame of, okay, so I spent that $4,500 and now I'm an adult and I made that decision as an adult. It's my personal responsibility to come to terms with the fact that that was my decision and I chose to spend that money. My problem with that argument is that it completely negates anything else that's happening. Like, I didn't make that decision to spend $4,500 in a vacuum. There were, and many of you who are watching this video that have also made your own coaching investments can attest to the fact that there is an extreme amount of emotional manipulation that goes on. There's different, like psychological marketing tactics that these people use, the love bombing, the community aspect. People are often at their most vulnerable position. If you listen to the video I put out this morning, that's a perfect example of this, is the emotionally vulnerable state people find themselves in, where they're just desperate for a solution to the problem that they're facing. And then this person comes along saying like, oh, just pay me X amount of dollars and I'll fix it for you. Why would I be led to believe that this person is lying to me or misleading me when they're saying, I was in your exact situation and now I'm doing so great? And so the personal responsibility argument for me, not really one I'm interested in, because yes, to a degree, we are responsible for the decisions we make. However, we also need to acknowledge the other contributing factors that led us to making that decision in the first place. Exactly. Harrison says, why aren't they taking responsibility for being terrible consultants who are incompetent at best and scammers at worst? Asking for a friend. If you ever find out the answer, let me know.
And regret keeps you fearing bad investments and in the emotion of not getting what you wanted from the investment, and then not really having the energy to be able to learn and grow as an investor and then go create bigger returns in the future with new investments. So the biggest ones that we coached on were shame and regret. Those are the ones, as people came up to be coached, those are the two emotions that typically my students presented with. They presented with shame for money spent without a return, shame for leaving a full-time job and expecting to make money or replace their income faster, shame for not being able to support their family with their business, shame for lifestyles having to be simplified because they aren't making as much money as they expected, or that they didn't make enough money back from investments, enough profit on top of investments to also live the lifestyle they want to live and invest in their business. Shame for being stuck on the same issue in investing for a long time, like buying coaching over and over and over to solve a thing that never gets solved. Shame for failure, for not getting returns, for not learning the lessons, for not implementing things that you purchased. Regret for investment decisions with coaches, with regret for over investing, buying too many things, and regret for expecting the investment to do the work and realizing that after the fact and not getting the return. They also presented with regret for not stewarding their money wiser, for not showing up to investments, for not using their time wisely in investments, for not doing the work. But remember, shame and regret keep you stuck in the emotion of what happened without the power to learn from it and do something about it. They let us indulge in self-loathing rather than self-compassion and, again, responsibility and empowerment. They keep us hidden instead of visible. Shame and regret also leave you trying to change the past in your mind or feeling so bad about what happened so that you don't repeat it in the future. It's like, let me make myself feel so terrible because I need to feel this terrible to learn not to repeat it. But then we get stuck in the feeling that terrible. And it doesn't have you focused on creating for the future. You can literally drown yourself in shame until you become invisible. Or you can extract value from the lesson that the shame and the regret is here to teach you. And you can move forward empowered and wiser than before. Questions you can ask yourself are, what's here for me to learn? What's the wisdom that I can gain here? How can I extract value from this experience? Good or bad, how can I extract value as an investor from this experience? What can I learn about myself as an investor here?
Okay, this is actually super interesting. So if any of you were around when I interviewed a woman who was interviewed by the New York Times, she was a student of the life coach school and essentially spent her entire life savings on various coaching certifications, programs, etc. And in that conversation I had with her, I asked, do you have like any kind of silver lining from this experience? Because obviously for me, if I could go back and, talk to myself of 2018, I would tell myself obviously not to invest in that coaching program. But I don't have any regret because it's something that I did and I can't change it. So to me, regret is kind of pointless. And I often will say that I'm thankful to that opportunity for, first of all, teaching me how to not be a scammer. But second of all, affording me this community, being able to connect with other people who have had similar experiences, being able to, platform this mission of helping people to not fall prey to similar schemes in the future. So for that, I am thankful to the experience that I had. Now, with this conversation with this woman that I was having, when I asked her that question, she said, no, her experience was so traumatic, so financially devastating that she doesn't want to have to sit around and think about, what's the good that came from this experience? And I think that's okay too. I think sometimes so much damage can be done, regardless of whether this is in like a coaching context or any other terrible thing that has happened to you in your life. I don't think we always have to be the optimist. I don't think we have to sit around and be like, oh yeah, this horrible thing happened to me, but at least it taught me XYZ. Like, no. Sometimes I think it's okay, and this is just my opinion. You can let me know how you feel in the chat. I think it's okay to go through something, whether it's emotionally traumatizing, financially traumatizing, some other form of traumatizing, or just downright terrible, and just say, yeah, that thing really sucked, and I'm going to leave it at that. Like, we don't have to sit around and try to, mental gymnastics gaslight ourselves into finding the positive of every situation. Personally, I don't think you need to do that, but I would love to hear what you guys think. I can see how it can be productive, sure, but I don't think it's always necessary. Exactly. It's your fault for being stuck there and feeling bad because your coach disappeared on you after telling you to journal your shame away. I've never been an optimist, or I've never been the optimistic. I totally blame and I've moved on. Exactly. Like, I blame them, that is, and also recognize my role. And see, and I think that's okay too. It's like, we don't have to all sit around and be like, oh, this woman stole $50,000 from me, but I'm just so glad I got a sense of community. Like, no, you can just see a situation for what it is objectively and move on. Toxic positivity preached by the cause of the negativity isn't ever well received. It's also just like super ironic to me that the people who are perpetuating this behavior are the ones that are preaching personal responsibility when I have yet to see so many of them, this particular coach included, take any level of responsibility for the harm that people are alleging they've caused. Like, if I had a client posting about me on Reddit being like, Danielle Ryan is a scammer. She stole all my money. I paid her and she never delivered a product. I would take personal responsibility and address that client directly and be like, yo, what video did I not send you? Like, to me, it's just so baffling that countless, like, especially like this particular coach, but many other coaches like her have multiple accounts of people. It's not just one bad review. It's multiple tens, hundreds for some of these people of bad experiences. And again, we can't believe 100% of everything we see on Reddit, but I'm sure that at least some of those stories are somewhat true. If multiple people are coming to you saying that they aren't happy with their experience, they didn't get what you had promised them, et cetera, would there not be at some point in time, would it not be your personal responsibility to show up and say, hey, this is where I went wrong. Let me address this so that we can move forward. You know, there's a particular coach. I guess she's technically not a coach anymore. She moved on to selling a physical product with her fiance. And she's based here in Vancouver. And I won't name her, but people have asked me to cover her in my comments section multiple times. And I'm conflicted because she basically ran a coaching business where she would like teach you how to grow on Instagram. And she grew her following through creating YouTube videos where she would teach you how to grow on Instagram. And then she sold a course teaching you how to grow on Instagram. It was all very like circular, like the accounts that grow teaching you how to grow on Instagram because they're talking about how to grow on Instagram. And she built this multi-million-dollar coaching business selling these programs for like high ticket prices. So it'd be like an online course that costs $6,000, let's say. And basically it got to the point where things snowballed so quickly, she couldn't keep up with the client demand. So she was making all this money, getting all these clients, and couldn't keep up with providing the service. And she ended up going through extreme burnout and took a sabbatical for a year because she had made so much money she could just like afford to live off the money she made. She came back to YouTube, came back to Instagram a year later, and rather than address any of the claims that were being made about her online, she just like swept it under the rug, turned her content into like talking about burnout and her sabbatical, and then shifted into selling a new business. And for me, there's something that doesn't really sit right with not at least acknowledging. I'm not saying you have to like give everyone a refund and, you know, make it this whole big thing, but like a simple acknowledgement of, I used to do these shady things and now I've moved past that and here's what I learned from the experience, to me speaks volumes over just like pretending things never happened and moving on to the next thing. I don't know. There's something very like disingenuous about that. And that's why I make the content where I'm like reacting to my old stuff. Not that I was ever like really a scammer per se, but I definitely was like talking about things I was not qualified to be talking about. And so I like to make those videos where I like make fun of myself so I can point out, you know, this is really problematic and this is why. It's like, I just wish more people would be willing to admit that like, yeah, I used to do some really weird stuff on the internet and I maybe shouldn't have done that. Exactly. How about taking personal responsibility for your coaching that provides little to no ROI as an investment? Exactly my point. On a similar note, my therapist asked me a long time ago if I was ready to forgive my dad. I said, no, I don't want to. Still feel that way, and that's okay. 100%. I totally agree here with Rodney. Rodney's saying, I look for the silver linings in some things and other things I don't. Some experiences are totally bad and not worth remembering. 100%. Yeah, very true. It's a great point. Space Pastry says, but God slash the universe forgave them. Also see Brittany Dawn and others like her. Very, very true. There also seems to be this this common trend with a few of these like mega influencers who made a lot of money exploiting people, allegedly, finding Jesus. And then, you know, God lets them repent for their sins. And now they're all Christian influencers. So very, very interesting. Yeah. if you want to take it like Brooke Castillo, you could just teach a course on how to be a badass and just rebrand yourself. That's an option as well. Okay. I'll get off my soapbox once again. I feel like I end up here every week. And let's continue.
And really dive in. There's a lot that can be learned here that can empower you to move forward instead of having you feel stuck in the shame and in the regret. And there's a lot of possible lessons that you can learn from these questions and from this shame and this regret and all the different ways that it shows up. But a few of them that I offered to my students through our Facebook community and coaching on the posts and through the coaching that happened on the calls and through the teaching, one of them is that the lesson sometimes that we need to learn is that we have growth entitlement. So we make our best guess, our best theory for how long it will take to create a business and make steady money or replace income. And we decide that's how it should be. That's the right answer. And then we feel entitled to that result in that time frame. And how we know we feel entitled is that we think something has gone wrong when it doesn't work out that way. We shame ourselves for not doing it in our arbitrary timeline that we chose that is often missing the wisdom of what it really takes to make it. Like, I thought I was going to leave my job. I got certified in March of 2015, and I thought I would leave my job by June. That was my expectation. That was my entitlement. I didn't leave until the following September. That was the real wisdom of what it took to make my business work and to create $100,000. And then in our upset and shame, we take ourselves out of learning and responsibility and doing the hard work. And we spend time instead being defeated instead of triumphing. Right? You spend your time worrying instead of theorizing and evaluating. This is the biggest one of everybody I spoke to. They're spending their time in the shame and the regret and the blame and the worry instead of their time spent theorizing and evaluating and going again. And that is what it takes to be successful. I don't care how you get.
What just happened? Did the sound cut out for anyone? Or was that just me? It just like stopped working.
Of everybody I spoke to, they're spending their time in the shame and the regret and the blame and the worry instead of their time spent theorizing and evaluating and going again. And that is what it takes to be.
There is.
Why did it stop? Ah! Oh no. Oh no. Where did it go? I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah, it cut out. Okay. It's not just me. Now it's saying I finished the episode? What the heck?
Somebody who is going to see your exact
Frig off. Why is it playing this
thoughts,
other
your exact
podcast? Did I get cut off? Okay, let me click on a different one of hers maybe. Okay, now we'll go back. I don't know why it's doing this. Okay, give me a second. Sorry, guys. That other podcast that started playing was also sent to me. Okay, let's try this again. So we were at about 9 minutes, I think. Let's try this.
Everybody I spoke to, they're spending their time in the shame and the regret and the blame and the worry instead of their time spent theorizing and evaluating and going again. And that is what it takes to be successful. I don't care how you get there. You got to get there. If you want to be successful, you have to be in the cycle of theorizing. What are my top 3 theories as to why this didn't work? That doesn't include somebody else. That doesn't include blame. That allows me to be responsible and empowered. What are my...
Yeah. Let's not blame our coaches. Let's blame ourselves, guys. If you're unhappy, blame yourself. Okay? That's the takeaway. Write that one down, guys.
My top 3 theories of what I did, how I showed up, why I didn't get what I came for, what worked, what didn't work, what am I going to do differently? And then going again and again and again and learning from each and every single thing we do and every single investment we make. But instead, you spend time fighting against what is right now in this moment instead of creating what could be from the lessons, from the wisdom, from the empowerment, from the responsibility. And you really do need 100% of your energy going to figure out what is working and what isn't working and what you need to do differently. You need 100% of your energy in creating new beliefs and new skill sets, in marketing and selling your offer, in getting results for yourself and then for your clients. So all of the shame and the regret is just, it's sucking all of your time and your energy and making you think the business doesn't work when really the emotions aren't working to create the business. And the truth is your biggest source of shame may be coming from a thought error. I saw this one a lot. My students believe their business should be supporting their family, paying their bills. And before $100,000, it absolutely should not be. And I know that's a truth that maybe you don't want to hear. And really, even before $200K, I wouldn't be expecting too much of it. I think.
Why not? What the? I'm sorry. I literally cannot. What is she? I need to go back and listen to that again. That was crazy. Your business doesn't need to support you.
Should be supporting their family, all of your time and your energy, and making you think the business doesn't work when really the emotions aren't working to create the business. And the truth is your biggest source of shame may be coming from a thought error. I saw this one a lot. My students believe their business should be supporting their family.
My students told me they believe their business should be supporting their family.
Paying their bills. And before $100,000, it absolutely should not be.
Before $100,000, your business should not be paying your bills or supporting your family. What's it doing then? I'm sorry. What am I? Can someone in the chat let me know what I'm missing here? If I have a business, is not the role of the business to pay my bills and support my family? Speaking as a business owner of how long? 7 years now? Over 7 years? 100% the point of my business is to be able to support my family and pay my bills. Otherwise, why the hell would I have a business? I'm sorry. Also, how else am I going to pay my bills? If my business isn't doing it, what? Am I also supposed to be working a job while I also have a business? This is what's so toxic about this industry to me is that, okay, I understand. Trust me, I live in Canada's most expensive city. I understand the state of the economy and that things are a lot more expensive now than they were even like 5 years ago. Things being like rent, groceries, gas, etc. And so, sure, if I make, I don't know, let's say I make $50,000 a year. If I was making $50,000 5 years ago, that would have been a lot different than me making $50,000 now in 2025. And so, sure, I think like a lot of the studies are showing that like $100,000 is now considered like, is no longer considered upper middle class. It's like middle class, low middle class, especially in like very expensive cities like Vancouver. My point being that you can have a business that makes less than 6 figures and still be able to pay your bills and support your family. Like, I don't understand, how high are your expenses? Exactly. Yeah. 100K covers different amounts in different areas for sure. I definitely want to acknowledge that. And I have to factor in, like, if my business makes 100K, I don't make 100K. I still have to pay taxes and my expenses and all of that. But like, how high are your expenses? Is she saying to not quit your day job unless you have a rich partner? That's kind of what I'm guessing now, because how else am I going to run a business, make less than 6 figures, not be able to pay my bills? Who's paying my bills? I have so many questions. Okay, all the money is to be reinvested in the business. Reinvested, aka pay for mentorship. Honestly, my biggest flex is that my business operates at like 10 to 15%, usually like closer to 10% operating costs, because I don't pay $50,000 a year for a mentor. You can easily support a family on 100K in Kentucky, but in New York, it's a struggle. Exactly. And like, it's just like at least 100K. This is so baffling to me. But they tell you that you can quit your job. They tell you to be all in. Exactly. So then who's going to pay my bills? That's what I want to know. If I'm making 100K and I'm also spending 100K, who's paying my bills? Where's that money coming from? Guys, I'm confused. If you're watching this and you have a business, don't listen to this nonsense. You don't need to be making 6 figures, multiple 6 figures. You'll be fine. Just stop spending all your money on an expensive coach and you'll be fine.
And I know that's a truth that maybe you don't want to hear. And really, even before 200K, I wouldn't be expecting too much of it. I think it takes 200K to live well now in this current world, in this current economy, and invest in your business to grow it, pay your taxes. That's what it takes. So I would have the goal of 200K or go home. Like, honestly, if you had someone else, working and you didn't require of your business, if it was like a side business, of course, you could make 40K, 60K, 100K and be very, very happy. But to actually like pay your family's bills, and especially depending on where you live, you want to get to 200K as fast as possible, because that's where it can really start doing that.
Again, I think that's highly dependent on where you live, but also completely untrue. Even if you factor in taxes. If my business makes 100K and I got to pay roughly, 30% to the CRA, I still pocket $70,000. So if I'm not an idiot and I run my business at a 10% margin or a 90% margin, I'm only spending 10% on expenses, I still pocket $60,000. And if I have a partner, then damn, my life's looking pretty good. If I'm bringing in 60K after taxes and he's bringing in whatever, 50, 60, 70, 100,000, I think we're doing okay. Like, so crazy to think that like the only way you'll be able to pay your bills is if you make $200,000. This is like setting up such unrealistic expectations for people who don't know anything. Like if I don't know anything about business and I listen to this, I might be like, oh my God, I'm such a failure. My business only made 50K. Because Stacy told me I have to be making at least 200K. Great point, Aaron. Aaron says, and what size your family is. If it's just me and my cat, it's a bit cheaper. But adding in my husband and my daughter, exactly, then it's something totally different. It's like such a generalized statement to be like, you have to actually make $200,000 in order to be able to afford your bills. Okay, well, what if I've been locked into my rent for the last 10 years and I'm only paying $1,200 a month? I don't need to be making $200K to pay $1,200 in rent. Like, pardon? 6% of Americans make $200K or more. Yeah, I think the median salary in Canada is like $60,000. So if everyone is surviving, not thriving, but like, you know, paying their bills on anywhere from like 50 to 75,000, let's say on average, I don't understand where she's pulling this 200K out of. I guess because her program is called 200K. So she wants to convince you that that's like the golden number, maybe. Yeah, she's just shaming people for not making enough money. That's how it sounds to me, honestly.
Maybe even 300K. Again, can you live off of it beforehand? Yes. You can live off your business at 100K before 100K, but will it be at the expense of not growing as fast and making more money in the future? Likely, which is why I kept my full-time job until I made 100K. And even then, after I left my job at 100K, it was dicey between 100 and 300K to invest in my business in the way that I wanted to grow it as fast as I wanted to grow, to go where I was going, and also pay my own bills. And it was...
Keep in mind, this particular coach, I believe, if we're talking back in the beginning, she was working with Brooke Castillo, I believe. So I imagine she was paying upwards of at least $20,000. But now I believe she works with Melanie Ann Lair, Alpha Femme. And if anyone is privy to the information in the comments, you can confirm. But I think her mastermind is like over $50,000 a year. I think it's closer to like $80,000. So yeah, if I want to spend $80,000 on mentorship in a year, my business needs to make at least 100K. In that case, she's not lying. But I'm just like, this is crazy to me. If you want to grow your business, you have to make $200,000. 100%. Monica says, I think no matter what you make, it's never enough for these people. I absolutely agree. And what a sad way to live your life. I don't know. I could never, and this was my issue even when I was in like the coaching industry, is that, and I've shared this many, many times. So if you've been here a while, I apologize for repeating myself. But for me, like money has never been my primary motivating factor in my business. Like I could have a client offer to pay me $10,000 and I would feel emotionally nothing. It would just be like, okay, sure. Like it's not going to get me super excited. And so sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought. For me, my priority has always been, you know, having freedom and flexibility to like make my schedule, do whatever I want, whenever I want, work when I feel like working. And obviously I need money in order to be able to do that. Yes. But I've never been someone that's like, oh, I got to hit, 100K. Oh, I got to hit 200K. Oh, I got to do this and this and this. And so it's interesting to me to listen to people who presumably they do think like that, like based on what she's saying right now. She's always been, got to hit 200, 300, got to hit $1 million, got to hit whatever, $40 million, I think she's made. I just wonder, A, does that not get exhausting? Especially when I don't know, I feel like a lot of these coaches probably peaked in 2020, 2021 when the coaching industry was booming. It must be incredibly demotivating to then see your revenue do this, going downhill for those of you that aren't looking at the screen right now. If your primary motivation is making lots of money. So if I 1 year made $10 million, but then the next year barely make $2 million, like that's going to be a really big hit to my ego, but also so demotivating when the only thing I wanted to do was make more and more money. I just think if you don't find a motivation within yourself and you're constantly relying on just like growing your revenue, which is an important goal. As a business owner, I understand, you know, year over year, you probably do want to make a little bit more money than you did last year. That is usually my goal, is not like, you know, to hit a specific revenue target, but to sustain or slightly increase the amount of money I made last year to, you know, be able to keep up with inflation. And so it's just interesting to me, the psychology behind these people that are so obsessed with money, because what happens when things don't go in the direction you wanted? Like, how devastating must that be? Emily says she was paying a personal coach $100,000 a year. She paid $80K for Melanie Ann Layer, and Brooke's program was $100K a year. Wow, that is crazy, allegedly, in my opinion. Why do they feel compelled to reach a specific amount? Like, are they never happy with what they make? That's kind of my point, is like, okay, so let's just say my goal is to make $2 million and then I make $2 million. Well, then what? Like, if anyone here has ever set a goal of any kind, I was talking with my partner about this recently. And so like, whether it's a monetary goal or like, you know, one day I want to have a YouTube channel. Like, I remember when I started this YouTube channel and the only thing I wanted was to get 1,000 subscribers. And when I got 1,000 subscribers, it was like exciting, but also, okay, what's next? And then I hit 10K and it was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Okay, what's next? I just think as humans, we tend to not really like rejoice in the fact that we accomplish our goals when we accomplish them. It's very much like a quick, okay, I did it. What's next? And so if you're constantly just chasing more and more money, I just feel like it's going to get exhausting. Yeah, 100%. Space Pastry says top MLM reps are dealing with that. They blame their downlines or the company they're with. No personal responsibility here. We don't know her. Absolutely. This comment says, I feel so much better after letting go of the I have to make 100K to think I'm making it. Currently on a 2-week staycation and I make less than 100K. I love that for you. That's always been my approach too, is like, can I afford the lifestyle I want? AKA, can I go on multiple vacations a year? If the answer is yes, then I'm happy. I don't care what the bank balance says, as long as I can pay for my trip in cash.
It's just me. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a family. It was just me. So if you try to live off of it beforehand, and I understand some people do, they end up in situations where they have to. And if you were that person, then you can't feel regret about it. Should be different.
Wouldn't that be most people? I'm sorry. But unless you have a wealthy husband, a trust fund, or like you saved a bunch of money before you quit your job, how else are you going to afford to live while you build your business? Or I guess you keep your 9-to-5. I'm just confused about what her point is here, because I feel like for the majority of people, being a business owner myself, but also having many friends who have started their own business, they rely on their business to pay their bills. Most of us don't have the privilege of focusing on building a business to 100 or 200K before we have to start tapping into that revenue. Like when I started my yoga business, which was my original business, I worked a part-time job as a waitress while I built the yoga business to the point where it could support me. And so I'm just confused about how she expects us to be able to pay our bills if we're waiting until we make $200,000. Because I think the stats show that like the majority of business owners don't make 100K ever. But even those that do, it takes like at minimum 5 years to make 100K. So am I just going to hope that my rich husband is going to pay my bills for the first 5 years that I'm building my business? I don't think that's realistic for most people, right? Like if you have a business and you're watching this, when did you start living off the money you were making in your business? Because for me, it was right away. Where I was at least using some of the money to pay my bills. I'm not really sure. Zip is asking, is her point that going massively into debt is worth it to grow your business? I didn't infer that that's what she was saying so much as just like, you shouldn't be taking a cut from your business, a paycheck from your business, until you invest in mentorship first. Very interesting. I have not fact checked this, so I don't know if this is true. But Joy here is saying that the problem with her statement is that in order to be in her 200K mastermind, she requires you to not have a job and be a full-time coach. So that's super interesting. If she's saying here, you're not allowed, this is very contradictory. You're not allowed to live, not allowed, but like, I don't encourage you to live off the money your business is making until you make at least 200K. But in order to join my mastermind, where I'm going to teach you how to make 200K, allegedly, you have to be without another source of income. Okay, so we're all just anticipated that we're going to have rich husbands or wives or trust funds that will float us, I suppose. Yeah, not everyone is married. Well, I guess if you want to be inside the program, you better be.
You've got to just move forward with this is what it is. And I've got to figure out how to stay in a cycle that keeps me moving forward and growing as fast as I can. And I don't have room for the shame and the blame and the regret. But
oh my God. Thank you, Amy. Amy just donated $5 and said, yes, join my masterclass to find a sugar daddy to support you while building your business. So good.
It sounds like a get-rich-quick scheme.
Yes, thank you. You will get rich quick. We all will.
If we all find sugar daddies, we will all be rich. That's what I want you to take away from today's episode.
Watch Shark Tank. Like if you haven't, I've seen so many seasons of that. The people who pay themselves big salaries and use the business's profit to live off of and don't work like a full-time job or even a part-time job while building the business, those people almost never get the deal because the sharks don't see them as like really wanting to grow aggressively and they're only looking to invest in people wanting to grow aggressively. Entrepreneurship is a huge lesson in delayed gratification. And I know delayed gratification does not feel good, but on the other side is
okay, this is like a half truth, I would say. From my knowledge and understanding of the like startup space. Again, if you're new here, my partner has owned, I don't know, like 5 businesses over the last 10 years. And there is some truth to like, okay, let's say he gets $100,000 from an investor. If he were to take 75,000 of that 100K and pay it to himself as a salary, yeah, his business probably isn't going to succeed with only 25K to work with. And the investors are also going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? There is something to be said about like in the infancy of a business, you pay yourself less, but most people aren't working for free. They're working for like poverty wages. Like I think back to his most recent like successful startup was it started back in 2018, 2019. And I believe his like starting salary at that time was like $40,000 because they didn't want to cut a huge portion of the business's revenue, but they were living in like a frat house at the time. He had a bunch of roommates. So his rent was like $700 or something. So you like pay yourself to be able to live, but not like live well. And so that is true advice. But she's kind of misconstruing it, again, in my opinion, under the motivation that like she wants you to invest in coaching specifically, where like I can promise you most startup founders, especially in like the Silicon Valley area, like tech startups, they're not wasting their company's profits on coaching. They're hiring software developers and like product development. So it's just interesting how they take like half truths, but then twist them to benefit, you know, their business of selling coaching to people. Trust me, you can find mentors by networking with people for free. Okay.
multiple 6-figure business that could be paying for lots of things, lots of dream vacations, mortgages, like private schools, extracurricular activities, college educations. Like there's a lot on the line to be able to build a business that eventually can pay the bills.
Okay, Emily is saying that she dropped the requirement for quitting your full-time job 2 years ago. My guess is to try and reach a broader pool of people.
Right? So if you want to succeed massively to where one day your business does provide solely for your family, it's got to have time, money, and energy to grow. It needs to be treated like an asset for your future. No differently than your stock portfolio. Like you wouldn't put $100,000 into stocks and expect the dividends to start paying you for your lifestyle each month immediately. But we do this with entrepreneurship from a thought error that it should be that way. So the reality check might be the lesson and the wisdom. Oh, it's harder than I thought. It's going to take longer than I thought to pay the bills. I'm going to have to build it bigger than I thought. I didn't realize this ahead of time. I'm going to have to invest more than I anticipated so that I can grow my belief and my skill sets and become the person who can make that type of money quicker.
I will say this until my face turns blue. You do not need to invest in order to, what did she say? Work on your mindset. Maybe spend $150 on a therapist every couple of weeks if you have to, but you don't need to spend thousands of dollars on a coach to improve your mindset to be successful. Honestly, just make friends. I swear to God.
And I've said this many times to my students over the years, and I know how painful it feels, but you may need to go back to work. If you left early and you thought it was going to grow faster and it didn't, and your family needs your income, you might have to go back to work, even if you don't want to, for a little bit. Maybe a few years. In the scheme of things, you have to work for 3 more years in your full-time job in order to then have a business that can pay your family for the next 20 or 30 years, think of it relatively. And it isn't a sign of failure to have to go back to work, right? So we don't need to have shame about it. So many people have shame about I'm going back to work or I'm getting a part-time job, so I'm going to feel shame because I failed. No, it's a sign of entrepreneurial and life maturity. And this is what I try to call people into. It's really coming from the emotional capacity to handle setbacks. Like, I can handle a setback. I can handle when things don't go my way. I've been so, in my business in 10 years, there have been times where I've had to scale back my lifestyle. I've had to stop buying things, stop taking trips, stop doing things in order to invest in my business or pay an unexpected tax bill or hire more employees or restructure the business. There have been times I just spent 18 months not taking a profit. I pay myself a very minuscule salary. We ended up having to raise it based on our profit this year, but it was not enough to pay our bills. So for 18 months, we lived off of savings so that I could restructure my business and have freedom as a new mom in my business.
Super interesting. So this podcast came out in July of this year. She's saying for the last 18 months, she's been living off savings and paying herself a very small salary. I wonder why that is. I thought our business made $40 million. So why aren't we able to pay ourselves? Because if we can't pay ourselves when our business has made $40 million, how are we ever going to pay ourselves when we're only making $100K? Oh my God, lady.
And I believed, I just treated my business as an asset. I'm doing this for 18 months and it's going to be painful, but also at the same time, I'm going to create an asset that now works for my mom life and me for the next 10, 20, 30 years. I don't know, however long I work. We bought land to build a dream house, a gigantic dream house, expecting my business before I had a baby to grow at the rate that it had for years prior, not expecting being a mom to impact my business and my revenue at all. And now we're going to sell it. In the beginning, it felt like a setback initially, but because the wisdom came through of the business I really want to have and what it really requires at this level, and that revenue isn't guaranteed, that wisdom had me move in a completely different direction with no regrets.
And that is a lesson on lifestyle inflation, my friends. For those of you that aren't familiar with the term lifestyle inflation, it is when your lifestyle inflates with your income. So if I don't know, let's say I have a job that pays me $50,000 a year. I've built this life around the fact that I make $50,000 a year. All of a sudden I get a promotion at work. Now I'm making $100,000 a year. Lifestyle inflation is when you then take, that extra, let's say after tax, $30,000 that you make in a year, and you start to buy nicer clothes and maybe buy a bigger or rent a bigger apartment or get a nicer car. And you start doing all these things because your income has now raised. You are living a more luxurious lifestyle. Well, then what happens when all of a sudden you get laid off and you have to go back to a $50,000 a year job? Suddenly you can't afford your life. And so it sounds to me, this is all alleged, just based on what she just said, that she started to experience a little bit of lifestyle creep where her business was making a lot of money. She bought this huge plot of land, planning to build this massive house. Lo and behold, again, it's not 2020, it's not 2021 anymore. The coaching industry isn't booming like it once was. Also, the life coach school is now closed, so she's probably not getting funneled a bunch of potential clients. She's not making as much money. Suddenly, she can't afford all these great, big, lavish things that she wanted. Somebody else sent me a podcast earlier of hers I was listening to where she was talking about how she used to fly to New York on a private jet and get styled for photo shoots by a professional stylist using designer clothes. So yeah, if I'm all of a sudden making millions and millions of dollars and I'm doing these things, Suddenly the next year my business makes, I don't know, let's say she was making $10 million a year. Now she makes $2 million a year. That's a big difference if I've let my lifestyle inflate to the value of $2 million. That's why you won't ever catch me. If I all of a sudden, I always joke that I have some distant relative I didn't know existed that's going to leave me a multi-million-dollar inheritance. If that happens, y'all are never going to know because I'm still going to be here in my little tiny office just chilling. Because I'd rather have that money in the stock market than I would in like fancy things and a massive house. Like, why? That's just me. I'm just making sure I didn't miss any comments. Yeah, you handle the setback, said by the setback. Yikes.
In fact, I feel grateful for all the lessons I learned in the last 3 years that didn't have me building a house, that might have ended up creating extreme financial pressure for me, that would have had me taken away from how much I want to spend with my kids because I'd always be worried about that mortgage. And instead, the wisdom has me aggressively investing my money into passive income streams and our stock portfolio and places where our money can grow without me having to do the work.
So true. Aaron says you are going to have more name brand soda, though. I see a lot of Poppy in my future. That's for sure. Honestly, probably not. I'll probably still buy the store brand, even if I can afford it. Like, why would I pay for real Coca-Cola when this tastes the same and it's half the price? Ugh.
Versus on real estate that I'm not even planning on using as an investment. I want to live there forever. So if you find yourself in a scenario where you've had a lofty expectation of what could be, and it isn't, that is life. That is entrepreneurship. And it's your time to get tough, not weak, to handle a setback, to find sufficiency, to create a new plan from wisdom. We're still going to buy the dream house, but now that I know what kind of lifestyle that I want and what is my priority now financially for the future now with children, and having that from desire of wanting my business to be highly profitable and for me to be highly happy and not stressed at all, we're going to move that back a few years. It's not a problem. I love the house we live in now. It's so crazy. I remember I wanted a pool so bad. We almost had one put here, but our yard is just not quite big enough to like, our dogs wouldn't have had anywhere to run around in. And so we decided not to, but I was feeling so sad that I didn't have a pool and I just wanted a pool so bad. And I imagined all the pool time I would spend with my kids. And now I've heard of like so many kids drowning recently, like just my heart can't handle it. And I told my husband the other day, I'm like, I'm so glad we don't have a pool with young children. Whether there would be a fence or a thing or anything, like I just don't think I could handle the anxiety now that I'm a parent. Like I'm glad we didn't do that. I don't need that until they're much older and they're very proficient in swimming. It's like things happen. You postpone things. You change things. Your wisdom shapes you differently, right? I have a new goal that my investments can pay the mortgage if they had to permanently, or that I can easily pay cash for the house or pay off the house in a few years, which is what we did with this house. But coming from the priority of I always put my business first. And sometimes this is the lesson. This is the wisdom that the shame and the regret and the blame need to teach you. Is did you put your business first in an investment you made? Did you protect your profit? I've had so many people come into investments, even with me, that I tell them, make sure you protect your profit, which means you keep selling what has been working and what has been selling while you think about building this other thing. Like especially $2 million group students. They're so obsessed with scaling that they want to leave behind.
Wow. Amy has gifted 5 more memberships. Wow. We're going to have so many people hanging out with us on Thursday. Thank you so much, Amy. I really, really appreciate it. And to that, I will say this to all the new members.
Raise your hand if you want to get rich.
Also, this.
I'm always baffled when people don't have a life coach or don't want one. I'm like, what? It's the most amazing thing ever.
If you are now a channel member, just know that I am now your life coach. And it's the most amazing thing ever. I'm not your life coach. Please do not contact me for life advice. I will not. You don't want it. Funny how she's never the investment she asks you to postpone. Protect your profit and don't buy from a huckster. Guys, if you want to make passive income, I would recommend putting money in the S&P 500. Not investing in one of these coaches.
Their previous business and just go straight to their scalable offer. And it's like, no. The first year, you've got to protect your revenue and your profit with. So if you made $200,000 or $300,000 last year with one-on-one and group, you do that while creating the scalable offer. And then you set a goal that includes that income plus the money from the scalable offer. And then once that money matches the money from the previous offers, then you skyrocket that scalable offer. And when you don't put the business first like that, when you make a rash decision and you just jump into a new offer and you stop doing what's working and you stop selling because you're so excited to learn new things, that's sometimes the lesson. You got to put your business, your profit, your revenue first. You got to go into your investments deciding to make your money back right away so that you profit the rest of the time.
I need to go back a minute or two because I'm a little bit confused. The conversation shifted very quickly. She was talking about wanting a dream house, and now she's talking about making a scalable offer. Sorry.
Now I've heard of like so many kids drowning recently. Like I don't need that until they're much older and they're very proficient in swimming off the house in a few years, which is what we did with this house. But coming from the priority of I always put my business first. And sometimes this is the lesson. This is the wisdom that the shame and the regret and the blame need to teach you. Is did you put your business first in an investment you made? Did you protect your profit? I've had so many people come into investments, even with me, that I tell them, make sure you protect your profit, which means you keep selling what has been working and what has been selling while you think about building this other thing. Like especially $2 million group students. They're so obsessed with scaling that they want to leave behind their previous business and just go straight to their scalable offer. And it's like, no. The first year, you've got to protect your revenue and your profit so if you made $200,000 or $300,000 last year with one-on-one and group, you do that while creating the scalable offer. And then you set a goal that includes that income plus the money from the scalable offer.
Okay, this is like no different than build your business alongside your 9-to-5 job. Have a consistent source of income while you focus on building the business. This is such common sense advice. Like, duh. Obviously, if I want to, create a new offer to make a new stream of revenue, it's not smart of me to just shut down all my other sources of revenue. Like, why is she acting like this is revolutionary information?
And then once that money matches the money from the previous offers, then
totally
you
agree.
Skyrocket that scalable offer. And when you don't put the business first like that, when you make a rash decision and you just jump into a new offer and you stop doing what's working and you stop selling because you're so excited to learn new things, that's sometimes the lesson. You got to put your business, your profit, your revenue first. You got to go into your investments deciding to make your money back right away so that you profit the rest of the time. You've got to, like I taught my students an ROI plan that helps them make sure that they don't end up in a situation where their business isn't put first, and an ROI method to help them keep the business first and keep themselves as the responsible, empowered steward of the business.
I totally agree, Zip. Zip here is saying the goal of this podcast is to put the listener in the frame of mind to think that a coaching business investing in high ticket coaching is the same as a bakery business investing in an oven. That's why I hate that they use the term investment, because when you're starting a legitimate business, there are certain investments you need to make. Like, I'll speak to my own specific experience because I don't want to speak on behalf of other people, but I, this year, invested in some equipment upgrades for my content business. So last year I bought a nicer camera. I bought some new lighting, a mobile setup that I can move around. I bought new tripods. Those are all legitimate business investments because I'm investing in expensive equipment that I'm going to get a return on via the work that I do for my clients. And so it's always interesting to me when they misconstrue something like coaching or mentorship as an investment, because they want you to believe that the money you put into them is going to be returned in your business. But just because you decide, I need to make this money back that I spent on this coach, does not mean that you're going to make that money back that you invested in that coach. So very, very interesting indeed.
This may be the lesson. I treat my business like an asset that is going to be an asset for the rest of my life, not just today. And I treat myself as the CEO and the sole person responsible for its revenue always. That might be the lesson. The lessons and the wisdom waiting for you could also be that you stewarded money before in a way that you didn't love, and you learned, and it helped you become the version of you who will steward it better from here on out. I coached someone on this and it was so powerful.
What does it mean to steward money? Can someone help me? I don't understand.
Telling herself she was irresponsible with money. And it's like, no, it sounds like where you're at now with the regret that you have, you've become very responsible. You've seen how you spent your money and you didn't like it. And you learned, and now you want to do it differently. And so for every dollar you make moving forward, you will. But only if you can get out of the regret. If you can see that you needed that to happen to become the person that doesn't want to spend money that way and wants to spend it differently and is stewarding it in a very different capacity and is paying attention to it in a very different way. But you've got to be future focused from here on out, right? Sometimes we can't get to financial responsibility without going through a little irresponsibility. But you can't get stuck there. You've got to learn. You can't decide past mistakes mean you are incapable of learning and evolving and becoming more savvy. If you haven't used investments well, if you haven't showed up the way that you wanted, if you haven't done the work and you know it's on you, then why? What are your top 3 theories? Let's grow from this, not wilt. I know it's painful to look. but it's more painful not to look and to stay stuck. It's more painful to never become the person with all the wisdom, to let the shame and the regret steal your dreams and your capacity and your capability to achieve them. And if you're stressed about the time it's taking, well, it takes more time to stress about it than to just get it done. So let's do it. Like, let's just do it with focus, 100% of it. Sit with the shame, look at it in the mirror, process it, and then let it go. Let the wisdom come through. Now, the final thing I want to touch on is blame. Blame shields us from shame and regret. We don't have to feel the shame and the regret, so it feels a little bit better.
If we just blame everyone else, guys, here it comes. This is the part I was waiting for. How anyone who's been unhappy with their investment in her is just choosing to blame instead of accept the shame.
When we can put it on someone else, then we don't have to feel it ourselves. But the problem is it eats you alive in the exact same way as shame and regret. Instead of making yourself the villain, which is what we do in shame and regret, you make someone else or something else the villain, but then you spend your time in a fight between good and evil. You lead with either weakness as a victim or righteousness as the hero fighting the villain. And instead of wisdom and vulnerability as a leader. And it's a very different energetic exchange there, a different energetic output that you're putting.
Guys, I'm just a victim. I made this YouTube channel because I'm a perpetual victim who doesn't want to live in shame and chooses to live in blame. Yeah, blame gets such a bad rap. Oh, man, you're telling me.
Into the world. And what it causes you to do is leave your lane to try to change the someone or the something instead of staying in your lane, changing you. And you lose personal empowerment every single day that you blame someone or something else for your investments not going right or your results that you've created. You start to subtly believe that other people and things control your outcomes, and you stop being the coach your clients need.
No, that is objectively not true. If I invest in a coach and they tell me I'm going to teach you, in this coaching program, you're going to accomplish ABC. And I come out of the coaching program and I put in, how many times I've heard the story of I did all the teachings. I listened to every lecture. I was in every live call. I was asking questions. I was getting feedback and I still didn't get result ABC. I got XYZ, which is usually nothing. In those circumstances, I personally believe it's okay to blame the fact that their marketing did not live up to what was provided in the program. I'm allowed to point my finger at you and say, you lied to me. You told me I was going to get all of these things. And if you aren't capable of being able to deliver on that promise, then you shouldn't be promising it to me in the first place. That's not me sitting around going, well, I'm a victim. The world is so hard. No. That's me holding you accountable, encouraging you to take personal responsibility for the fact that you're a freaking liar. I'm not calling this lady a liar. She might be. I don't know. I've never worked with her. I'm saying in a more general statement, if someone on the internet is making promises that they are incapable of upholding, I personally believe, allegedly in my opinion, it's okay for me to blame them for being a freaking liar. Okay? Exactly. The irony of her preaching responsibility and talking down blame as if she doesn't blame her students or Reddit commenters for her own shortcomings. The irony is not lost on me. Can we take a minute and listen to our own podcast and think, maybe I should stop blaming everyone else for being a hater, and maybe I should start listening to what they're saying. Exactly. Especially if there are multiple similar complaints. And that is my point. Again, not just about this particular individual, but about so many of these coaches. Google any of them. Name Reddit. You will see thread after thread after thread of multiple, probably at this point, hundreds of different coaches. And every story sounds similar. So if that's the case, are these people just perpetual victims that are choosing to blame? Or are they providing valid criticism that perhaps you should consider?
Because now you're wounded by coaching that you've bought. And it's very hard to sell coaching powerfully from a wound, from disconnection, from righteousness. And if you do sell it, look out for the clients who respond to this. If they're responding to your victim and not your empowerment, having a client base full of victims who also blame when they don't get what they expected or desired, eventually you become their villain.
Okay, so what about a YouTube channel full of subscribers who are victims? Am I the villain? Are you guys all going to turn on me and turn me into the villain? I kind of hope you do. That could be fun. Okay, let's try it. Somebody write about me on Reddit. I live for it. I love it.
Trade the blame for empowerment. Whether it's your kids, your coach, your husband, your job, your colleagues, a program that you bought, the process that you were taught that you didn't think worked, it's all keeping you from learning something about you. That could be why you ignored red flags in yourself before you invested in something, why you didn't trust yourself, why you believed gossip and took yourself out of an investment that you needed and could have really benefited from. You could learn from what was inside of you that was attracted to a coach who has wounds and villains. Were you waiting and expecting for the coach to do the work rather?
Why did it stop? Why does it keep doing this? Spotify, what the actual heck?
Believed gossip and took yourself out of an investment that you needed and could have really benefited from. You could learn from what was inside of you that was attracted to a coach who has wounds and villains. Were you waiting and expecting for the coach to do the work rather?
Boo. Okay, I got to refresh again. Sorry, guys. I don't know why it's doing this all of a sudden. I might have to go back to Apple Podcasts because Spotify is betraying me yet again. Yeah, trade the blame for empowerment and refund everyone. Now there's an idea. I like it. I like it a lot.
To do the work rather than implementing and owning your decisions and being the CEO. Like I told my students, I want you to think about this. I showed them actually. I had them do an exercise. I showed them how it feels. But it feels like crap to truly be responsible and empowered, if you really think about it. Because you have to give up the story, keeping yourself disempowered and look at yourself. And it feels confronting and hard and frustrating and isolating and triggering. But the result is feeling alive, triumphant, empowered, invincible, confident, equipped, energized, intelligent, free, grounded, connected, whole. Like the list goes on. That's the result, the way you feel after empowerment and responsibility. But getting into empowerment and responsibility feels terrible. But you've got to be willing to do it because on the other side truly is power and freedom. It's a future that you want, that you figure out how to create. And it's you helping other people get out of their shame and regret and blame in their lives. Because think about it, if everybody walking around the world stopped indulging in shame and regret and blame, if they were able to process it and move through it no matter, and I coach some people who were dealing with some really heavy shame for many years of their lives, like painful suffering. But when you can let that go, holy smokes, the energy that you have, the power that you have to move your life forward to what you want is going to be incredible. It's totally worth it. Okay, that's my message, folks. I love you. I believe in you. I am here to support.
How do you love me? You don't even know me. I hate that. I love you. Love bombing 101. Buy my program.
You try letting this go. Try working through this. Try not letting this eat you alive. You deserve to have the business and the entrepreneur experience that you want and that you've dreamed of. But it just can't include these 3 things. And if you missed ROI or any of the Entrepreneur Series courses, to
buy my course.
Date, stay tuned. People have been asking. There were students in ROI asking about capacity work and serve. There were people emailing in trying to get an ROI after we closed the doors. And we really meant it. So we did keep the doors closed. But stay tuned. Keep your eyes open. Make sure you're getting my emails and they're not going to your promotions tab. Make sure that you're following the correct @Stacey Bayman.
Totally agree. Aaron says some people could use more shame. In fact, I would argue most of the coaching industry doesn't have enough shame and could definitely use more. Ay, 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 ay. The people have been asking equals nobody ever asked. I was actually thinking that in my head. I didn't say it, but how many times do you think that coaches will say things like, so many people have been asking me for blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, nobody's asking. It's like when people do the question box on Instagram, and I'm not shitting on that. I do that. Sometimes I'll do an ask me anything. What's funny to me though is when people do that specifically for their like offers. So I'll see coaches be like, oh, I'm releasing whatever. Let's just say a 6-week coaching program to teach you how to level up your mindset. Let me know if you have any questions. And then the questions that get asked are so hyper specific that I'm like, there is no way someone is actually asking this question. It's like, can you explain to me the names of each of the modules inside the course? Like, I don't think any consumer is actually going to be asking that. I just find it so funny when it's like very obviously a planted question that the coach asks themselves. So good. Or the, I can't keep these in stock, but I managed to get 5 more to offer. Or it reminds me of like the MLM huns that are like, I only have 2 spots for you to join my team this month. And it's like, girl, you're in an MLM. You could get 100 people signing up. And you're going to tell me that you go, oh no, I only have 2 spots available. No, you're not. Why are you lying? Yeah, answering their own questions. Exactly. Because they want like certain information to get out there. So they plant questions that like they think are interesting. But I'm like, no one cares, lady. So funny. Brad Clark, welcome. Brad says, I almost fell for one. I'm assuming you mean a coach. I think it's worse for those with disabilities. You are more likely to fall for it. There are many, many vulnerabilities that people can experience that leave them susceptible to being scammed. I encourage you to check out the Scam Stories playlist if you are new here. You will see a variety of people with a variety of life experiences, and just know that we've all been vulnerable once or we wouldn't be here. Aaron says, 100%, I've put up polls on my IG and then told my kid to check my story and answer my poll. And then she'll ask me how I want her to answer. I love that. That's so funny. I will actually, so I have 2 Instagram accounts. I have my personal Instagram account and then my private one. And like my one for friends and family. And if I put up a poll with 2 options, I will actually reply from both accounts so that it like doesn't skew the results. But that's mostly just so I can quickly see the stats without having to like swipe up and see who specifically has answered. I just want to know which response is winning. Emily says, for these group series, she talks about the hundreds of people in the program, not disclosing that it's open to all of her current $200K and $2 million. Oh, okay, interesting. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the particular coach we listened to today, she has, I believe, 3 signature programs. 2K for 2K, which is like her intro program that teaches you how to make your first $2,000. Then 200K, which teaches you presumably how to make $200,000. And then the $2 million program, which teaches you how to make $2 million. Not very original marketing. I mean, it's very clear and to the point, I suppose. So kudos to her for that. Anyway, I digress. So she's been putting out these like mini offers that are much more affordable. I believe we looked at one called Capacity Work a few months ago. Anyway, apparently if you're in one of her masterminds, you're able to join those programs. So that could definitely skew the numbers for sure. Because like how many people are in, when you were in 200K, how many people were in there with you? Yeah, the break-even programs. Exactly. Invest in my 2K program. It only costs 2K, and I will teach you how to make 2K. Okay, so I'm back at where I started, is what you're telling me? I think that's the thing a lot of these people don't think about, like the people who are investing in these programs. It's like, if I'm spending $25,000 on 6 months of coaching, which is, I believe, what she was charging at one point, that means that I have to make at least $25,000 in the next 6 months to just make that money back, let alone actually make a profit. And I understand the goal is to make 200K, but it's like, man, that's stressful, because now I'm not starting at 0 trying to build a business to 25K. I'm actually starting at negative 25K trying to build the business back to 0 so that I can then build it even more. Like, that's terrifying. But they try and like twist it that oh, you just got to invest as your motivator to keep building the business. Like, yikes. Okay, so there was 100 people in 200K. And so if they all have access to this mini offer, that's automatically 100 people. Let's say she sells 100 more. Now I have hundreds of people in this program, but really half of them were already there. Very, very interesting business model anyway. Very curious indeed. Okay. I don't have any other content for us today. That was really all I had planned. Again, if you weren't here at the beginning of the stream, or maybe you were gifted a membership along the way.
You can buy status. You can buy status by just like spending money to be around these people and then just being a cool person.
Because Amy bought 10 of you status, you can now join us on Thursday. Same time, same place, 4 p.m. Pacific, where we're going to listen to a private podcast about me. Because I'm a narcissist and the world revolves around me. And I want you all to listen to a podcast about me. Honestly, it's just kind of funny. And I'm really excited for us to all listen together because I have my own thoughts, of course, as I always do. And I look forward to hearing yours as well. So if you are a channel member, you can join us then and there. Otherwise, I'll see the rest of you next Monday. Or maybe sooner if I put out a video between now and then. But who knows? I got things to do, places to go, people to see. I'm trying my best, okay? Okay, Brad says, before we sign off here, he says, since watching you, here's my opinion on coaching. It should be monitored like mental health therapy and more ethical practices. Bingo. You and me, same page. Nice to see ya. Thank you all so much.
I want all of you to like let that one especially like deeply sink in.
Let that sink in. Take care, comb your hair. And I'll see you guys when I see you. Bye-bye.